The door was locked. Did you do this?
Yeah, they're long.
Doors are open.
Yeah, we're ready. All right, it's 6:25. We'll call the Finance Committee meeting to order. We have one item on the agenda. And I'd like to let Samantha address that if you don't mind.
So we've been having some issues with our utility bank payments. There are 4 local banks that collect payments on behalf of local utility districts. We're included in that grouping. So First National Bank, Security Federal, Homeland, and Citizens Tri-County Banks all accept water/garbage utility bills at their locations. When this all came to a head, we've had issues there. Mistakes happen. Tellers make mistakes, we make mistakes. The problem is when these mistakes are made at the banks, they're not caught until the monthly reconcile. That puts the monthly reconcile pretty substantially behind. It takes 2 or 3 people working through each of those transactions to find the issue. If it was just one error, you could find that amount pretty quickly. What happens, and I've got some examples here, they'll write the deposit ticket for, let's say, $50.28, but they'll actually put $50.78 in our bank account. So we've applied the customer 50 cents less than what was actually taken out of their personal bank account. And that 50 cents is one of the amounts I'm looking for. But then sometimes our deposits go to a different utility and other utility payments come to us. So I'm actually looking for 3 different mistakes, trying to find $1 amount, which is the difference of all of those 3 things added together. What that ends up is Hannah does our monthly bank reconciliations, but she has to work with myself, with Kevin, Linda, and one of the utility cashiers to try to figure out exactly what that mistake was, get the customer corrected, and get back on track. When this all came to a head, we had actually cut off some customers who had paid at the banks. They call up here after their water gets disconnected and they've paid. We have no record that they have paid. And what happened was that slip got left at the bank. It got sent to a different utility, things like that. And unfortunately, those mistakes are happening a little bit more frequently. So the time spent reconciling these accounts has grown pretty substantially. And I put some figures together and I think I've given each of you one of those, but on average, 391 customers pay at a bank in a month, which is about $30,000. When we boil it all down, that accounts for 4.5% of payment types. So 45% of our customers pay by cash or check here at City Hall or by check, Dropbox, things like that. They mail it in. Bank drafts, which are completely free to the customers, will set up their checking account. They can have it debited on the 7th or the 21st or the next business day, whenever their bill is due. That's 30% of our customers have opted for that option. 20% pay by credit card, which could be by phone, online, in person, text to pay, a various way to pay with a credit card. And then 4.8% pays at the bank. There's a convenience to consider here because those customers may already be a customer of the bank, so they do all their business kind of a one-stop shop. And of course, most of the banks have a drive-through option to where the customer never has to get out of their vehicle, which is the benefit, and we recognize that. But I wanted to bring the issue up to you all because of the lag on the bank reconciliation side and getting those issues corrected. And I will say some banks are much quicker and easier to get the issues resolved. There are a couple banks who I'm still waiting on corrections from November. So we're just having a little bit of an issue with our local banks. And I believe Steve may have reached out to a few and they've all said that they like doing those bank payments there because they get to keep that money. So we have an account that money just goes right into, and of course they get to use that money in their bank.
In fairness, it was only one, but they did.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But you are right. They said, they would like to keep doing it, but because of that reason.
I talked to a bank too, and they said they just did it as a courtesy.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So how do they reconcile their own? Because they've got the same issue that we've got. How are they handling their reconciliations?
That's the alarming part. I'll be honest with you. There's been a few overages, like $100 or so when I called and I said, hey, I'm missing $100 that should be on my bank statement and I have the deposit ticket for it, but we just never got the money. The teller told me, oh, well, that drawer was over that much by that day. And this was 3 weeks after the fact that the mistake had happened. And I don't want to act as though it's just that one bank because it has happened at all of the 4 banks. And they do hundreds, thousands of transactions a day in a week, and I'm not trying to diminish that. That's probably a very small percent error, but on our side, our customers are being cut off. The other issue is the delay. So if you pay your bank, pay out your bank, the time for that deposit ticket to get brought to City Hall for that bill to be applied or that receipt to be applied to your account has resulted in late fees getting accrued. So then our utility billing clerks have to go and reverse all those late fees back because the customer did pay on time. We just didn't receive that deposit ticket on time. If it's not receipted in the system when they process late fees, it accrues those penalties, and we have some upset customers who did pay their bill on time. There was just a lag there, and I think for the most part, we've got that nailed down to just a 2 or 3 day turnaround. There for a while, it was more than a week. I don't know if the solution, I don't know what the solution is, but I want to bring it up to you all because it is becoming an issue. And I don't want any of you to get a phone call and say, I paid and y'all are still cutting my water off. As a customer, I'd be very frustrated. If I'd paid my bill, my water got disconnected. And I had my receipt, and usually they'll bring in a receipt and say, here, look, I paid it. And then we're contacting the bank on the behalf and saying, hey, you know, their money came in, but usually in those situations, the deposit ticket just gets sent to a different bank or a different utility.
How many, go ahead.
I was gonna say, you said 45% paid at City Hall. What was the 30%?
Bank draft and automatic ACH debit to that
Credit card.
person's checking account.
Then credit card, then 4.8% are paying at the bank.
Yes.
Well, can I ask a question,
Sure.
Sam? I mean, I have certain vendors that I pay and it, you know, my payments are timely based upon when they receive it, not when I send it. Is it, would it be outside the realm of expectation to accelerate that due date by, say, 5 days if they're using that particular payment method?
They are not to take a payment at the bank if it's past the due date.
Well, I meant the time it takes to get it to us, and then we assess late fees, like accelerate that due. If we've got it, let's say we're 3 to 5 days. If we accelerate, if you use this payment method, your payments due 5 days before somebody else's. If you use that method, that would give us time to get it receipted, and we wouldn't have the bad disconnects. That doesn't handle the inaccuracies,
Right.
but it handles that,
Mhm.
it handles that lag time there.
We could, yeah, we can definitely, and I'm looking for ideas and suggestions. I'm not suggesting we cut this off cold turkey. I'm not suggesting I just want to bring it to everyone's attention that there is an issue, and it unfortunately tends to be mounting, but absolutely making their due dates a few days earlier, or I don't know.
Do you think we would get a lot of pushback if we just stopped it?
I do think there will be some upset customers, because they have used this option. We've seen a jump in these types of payments whenever we move from the 3rd floor, the elevator broke. Just swing by First National, and you don't have to be a member or a customer at that bank. And that was my understanding was if you're a banker, if you bank at First National Bank and you run down there and make your payment, and that would be a one-stop shop. Pay all your bills at one time, you're good to go. But it's not necessarily only their customers. They have people who only go down there to only pay their water bill. So I think the fact that they don't have to get out of their vehicles, they're open on Saturdays for a partial day, things like that are an incentive for that payment option. So whenever we moved to Bell Street, we've seen a jump there of people using that service. And we really haven't seen the foot traffic on the 1st floor that we have seen, or we used to see it on the 3rd floor.
If you accelerate the due date, that's not gonna show up on that bill.
I think we would have to
Because-
notate it somehow, and I'm not sure what our freedoms there are on the format.
Not do all the bills, you know, all 6,200, which there was some pushback there. It was like, I usually have till the 7th.
Right.
Before I, have to pay the penalties. I think it would be hard to just earmark those people that pay.
We would have to put something on every bill that says if paid at a bank, due by, and kind of do a
That way the bank would
separate.
know whether to take it or not.
We could absolutely explore something like that.
How many times have people actually been cut off because of that? I mean,
Off the top of my head, over the past 3 months, at least 5 or 6.
Really?
Just over the past few months, yes, sir.
That's more than I thought.
Yeah, that's a pretty big problem.
Well, it sounds to me like it sounds like to me that there's two problems, but there's not one solution for two problems. You know,
I mean, it adds, anytime you add another step in the process, another place that money stops, you're gonna have, I mean, it's just a chance for more mistakes. But
if we were to do something like that, it might incentivize them to come down here to pay it instead of having to accelerate that payment due date,
Yeah.
which would be the desired intent anyway, would it not? It'd be the preference.
We would really like to just. We don't want to be a burden to the customers or change the way they can pay. We've actually installed a new Dropbox, things like that to try to give more opportunities. But if there was a way that they could come to City Hall, the error is caught at the end of that business day. It's not caught 30 days later. If we can get them into City Hall, they can get a receipt, they can leave, they know that that money has been applied to that account. And if they write a check for 50 cents more than we had received it for, we know at the end of that business day and we go receipt by receipt to find that mistake. It does not get done without that. So again, I don't know the solution, but it's definitely an issue. And something I did not do before tonight's meeting that it just popped in my mind was to reach out to other utilities and see if they're having similar issues or if they have a better solution to catching these mistakes. Just yesterday, we received one that was meant for a different utility, so send it back to the bank and then the bank gets it back to that utility district. And we try to catch those as fast as we can, but sometimes it's a few days or weeks before, and sometimes we don't catch them until we reconcile.
Is there any place that they can drive through to pay that, where it comes straight to the city?
We started the new drop boxes back over at the Milner Center where they don't have to get out of their vehicle.
I mean, that
We looked
feels
at-
like the solution to me.
We looked at one over behind where the post office boxes have been moved to, but the amount of time to sit in traffic and to fill out your envelope and put that in there. I think Ricky and them tested it and there was people lined up behind them trying to get to the post office. So that didn't seem to be conducive.
Issue, traffic, so it's good, that traffic becomes one lane, so. We decided to move that one to Milner, it's right in front as you walk in, you can actually drive up to it if you drop the payment.
And there are security cameras on that drop box as well would be something to consider. If a payment, there was a discrepancy or something were to happen to that box.
There's also drop.
I mean, that seems like a good solution to me. I mean, somebody getting their electricity cut off is, I mean, we don't want that to happen.
Absolutely.
That seems that outweighs to me the inconvenience, but it's not that inconvenient if they're, can drop it at the Milner Center.
And what we tend to
We
see, I
advertise
know
that
of
well.
I know of 2 customers who they were disconnected and while they were in City Hall, they just dropped off a voided check and we set them up for bank draft and that issue will not happen again. So they didn't understand that we had that option or that it was a free service to them. But we were able to get them signed up on bank draft. That way they don't have to come here. It's automatically debited out.
What do you think most of these folks are older folks?
I think that would be, I think that would be a majority.
Any change that we have for them is gonna be hard, no matter what it is.
Yes, absolutely. And the fact of getting a receipt. If you're paying in cash, I can completely understand getting a receipt whenever you pay. Just something to bring up, and I'm happy to reach out to other utilities, find out if there are any other solutions, and we can bring it back around at a different time.
I suggest that. What do y'all think?
yeah, I mean, the easy thing is just to stop it, but for us, the easy thing, but it's not easy for everybody else. So. Yeah, maybe we'll,
Do you care to
Come
do
back
that, to
to it.
reach out and see what that is, and then we'll have the next time we have a board meeting, we'll have another 10-minute finance committee meeting and bring it up again?
Absolutely. Should we call water and sewer for the same time to discuss, or was this a finance issue? How do we need to? if there's any action to be taken, I guess is what I'm asking, if that affects water sewer committee.
Joint committee meeting.
All of it.
We can always say that's what we're gonna do, and if Mr. Purtle decides we don't need to do it, then we'll just
Right.
do finance again.
I'll do a little more research and get back with y'all next time.
Thank you.
Anyone else have anything to come before the finance committee? If not, this meeting's adjourned.
So at this point, at this time, I'd like to call the safety committee to order, please, to discuss the purchase of an extrication tool. Chief Mayfield, would you care to speak to us about this, please?
Yes, back in last March, we applied for a TSO grant. And for $12,500. And we got it, so we got look and see what we need to buy with it, so we come up with this education combo tool. And we hit a budget line item for $13,556. But time we quit a quote, it had went up a little $500. And then it went up again. So the difference will be, we got paid $1,544 different. But we all go get that $12,500 back through that grant.
And that expense was budgeted. We've just got an increase of $1,500 that
Right,
we got to deal
yes.
with. Okay.
And like I say, it will been handy last Friday on that deal we went on, and we had to wait on across town for them to come, and so I mean, that tour can do a lot of stuff. So we'll put in for another one this coming March.
Okay.
So,
Does anybody have any questions about this purchase?
Motion to approve.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Alright.
it's approved. Thank you, Chief. I do not believe that we have anything else on the agenda. If there's no further business, I'll call this meeting of the Safety Committee adjourned.
And I will call the Parks and Rec Committee to order. Justin will speak to discussing the bids for Gilly Pool sewage pump replacement.
Thank you. So at the end of last summer, was out there at the pool trying to wrap some things up, help Katie Smart, and I heard an unusual sound. We were backwashing, and of course, it was great that it happened after the pool had closed. But I realized that the sewage pump in our holding tank was not pumping. So my guys got in there with the help of the water guys, Ricky's guys, and we pumped that tank dry, got down in there and got the pump out. We sent the pump off to see if we could have it rebuilt. And it was not successful. That thing had been in there for probably 15 years. I've changed one pump. We've changed one pump since I've been there, with the pool since it opened. And so we put this out for bid. And Morrison Electric Motor came in with a bid of $71,9255. They are about 30 to 60 days on the delivery of it, but my guys are going to install it once we get it, if approved. And this money is coming out of pool repairs, which we have budgeted. So.
Well, it's not like we have a choice.
Yes, sir.
Is that about what it cost before? Are we in the range?
To be honest, I have no clue. Again, I remember doing one probably 15 years ago. This thing runs every time we backwash, and during the 10-week season that we're there, running wide open 7 days a week, we could typically backwash 3 times a week. So it gets used a lot, and it's just pumping the water out of the holding tank. But again, thank goodness it happened after the season had ended. So.
I'll make a motion that we approve the bid from Morrison Electric for $7,192.55 and get it in before the summer gets here.
I second that.
All right, have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Thank you.
there you go. Thank you, Justin. Any other business for Parks and Rec? Call this meeting adjourned.
Mr. Gwen, you want to come on up for your presentation?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to come before you again tonight. This is a little bit outside the norm. Normally, we come to you, Mr. Mayor, for a proclamation, but the Executive Committee of the Black History Museum felt so strongly that the land donation that the mayor and board of aldermen approved down at Ramsey Park was indeed a historical event. And we wanted to memorialize that. So we drafted a proclamation to bring to you. I don't want to read all the citations, but I would like to read the last two, where it says, whereas on 22 November 2023, a deed was made available to the Black History Museum of Warren County, Tennessee. Therefore, in recognition of these events, the Board of Directors of the Black History Museum of Warren County, Tennessee, under the hands of those below, recognizes the historical significance of this action and offer their sincere appreciation to the city of McMinnville, Tennessee. It is signed by our executive committee. We want to say formally, thank you for what you've done for us. We're going to do all we can do to make sure that you're proud of this donation. So we'd like to present this to the city. And if we could possibly get a quick picture, we have some of our board members and our volunteers and our advisory members here. We'd appreciate if we get a quick picture. That'd be okay.
Your hair.
Better go this way.
Yeah, I think they want us to stand up behind them.
Oh, we're gonna stay this whole time.
Right.
Y'all wanna put me in a chair?
Oh, you just forget.
You got a few more. I know who I've got, I hope it's acceptable. Anyone else? I heavily read
Hey, we appreciate it. Thank you. We're gonna be watching for good things. I know they are. I know they are. I know that song.
Little videos.
Thank you. See you later.
See you, Nick. You're welcome.
Excited.
All you.
Yeah. So excited.
should have received those in their agenda packet. If there are no requests for additions, corrections, or deletions, I'll entertain a motion to dispense with the reading and approve them as read.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Ms. Deidre Dunlap. All in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Item 3 is recognition of visitors. If anyone wishes to address the board, come on up and state your name for the record.
How are you all tonight? My name is Jean-Claude Petit, owner of Jay's Restaurant. And I was just kind of wanting to run by an idea of maybe looking into reopening up SR1 end of Sparta Street with the possible stop sign, red lights flashing to let emergency vehicles and everything as they're coming towards east to continue through, besides going through the zigzags of the red lights. I've noticed now the construction is pretty much done except for painting of the lines. But I've talked to a lot of officers and ambulance drivers and things like that. And as you're coming down from town, Urban College, Mount Leo area and this and that, a straight shot, if you're running down Sparta Street, let's say 50, 60 miles an hour and you're heading to the hospital, 5 more seconds could save a life to get on through there if there was a stop sign versus having to slow down, turn left at a red light, either go straight across the intersection or hang a right to get back on the bypass. They're using steel. Just the average people are cutting through business parking lots, almost seeing fender benders every day. They're cutting in the First National Bank parking lot, US Auto or anything. There's not a good way to shut it off completely, because if you've got those businesses, people are still going to go. But even if they're not using the businesses, they're still deterring and causing a little bit of havoc. But what I'm looking at is the safety condition part of it. And I've talked to some state, and there's no merger in the works and nothing like that. And I understand that part. I'm just looking at maybe trying to find a way, compromising city, county to get with the state, maybe have a meeting and see about opening up one lane with a stop sign to continue a flow for emergency vehicles. And that's what I was wanting to think about.
I'll go ahead and say I doubt that's going to be in the realm of possibility. That was the whole idea behind TDOT's doing that the way they did, was to prevent that merger of the bypass, the highway and Sparta Street. So, I mean, we don't have any jurisdiction or say so over that because both of those are state routes. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but I highly doubt that TDOT is going to walk back on a project that they just spent millions of dollars and months completing and open that back up. But
There is some of the emails, I did get that same response. But by talking to 2 state representatives, they're telling me in order to get maybe TDOT to look at it and reevaluate it, I've got to start small and work my way up. And that's why I decided to come in.
sure. All right, it's something that we can certainly pass up the chain, but I would not get my hopes up.
I understand
Yeah.
that part.
Yeah.
So,
But
but
we do
that's-
appreciate the feedback and the information that you've given us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 4 is recognition of employees. We have several department heads here this evening. If anyone wishes to give any recognition, come on up. I will say thank you to Public Works, the electric companies and co-ops and everybody who I'm sure worked diligently all night last night. I know there were lots of power lines down and some minor flooding and things like that. So thank you all to the public utility workers. Item 5 is communications. There are none. Item 6 is petitions. There are none. Item 7 is unfinished business. Does any member of the board have any unfinished business this evening? Yes.
Mayor, the city previously donated to Habitat for Humanity a surplus lot for their use. They have not found a use for that unimproved lot that we donated to them. They want to deed the property back to the city. It of course costs the city nothing.
Was that the one on George Hudgens?
Or
George Hudgens?
yes. With the board's approval, I'll draft a quitclaim deed, which is a 1-paragraph instrument of conveyance restoring that to the city, and the city could do whatever it pleases with it. We'll do that in the form of a resolution at the next meeting.
Okay.
So it'll be in the public record.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Any other unfinished business come before the board? Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8, new business. Any new business to come before the board this evening? Item 9 is resolutions. Item 9A is resolution number 2249 to authorize the city of McMinnville to accept the statewide contract 209-80359 from TT of Chattanooga for a 2024 Dodge Durango police vehicle in the total amount of $83,404.50 for the city of McMinnville Police Department to authorize the city administrator of the city to issue the necessary purchase order on behalf of the city and to express the time when this resolution becomes effective. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Is that for 2 units?
I was-
Because it appears that the bill is,
Okay.
it is, okay, so that's for 2. Okay, so we just need to correct that it's for 2, not a.
Yes.
It's
Let
for
the
2.
minutes reflect that it is for 2 2024 Dodge Durango police vehicles and the total amount of $83,404.50.
I'll make that motion that we accept this.
Have a motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Miss Carrie Morton. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock.
Yes.
Deidre Dunlap.
Yes.
Stacy Harvey.
Aye.
Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Rachel Kirby.
Yes.
Carrie Morton. Yes. Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 10 is ordinance, ordinance number 1874, the city of McMinnville to amend chapter 1, title 17 of the McMinnville Municipal Code by deleting subsections 2, 4.1 and 4B of section 17-123 titled Fees for Solid Waste Collection in its entirety and replacing with new subsections 2, 4A and 4B to repeal any provision in the code in conflict with this ordinance, to provide for a severability clause and to set the time when the ordinance becomes effective. This is the second and final reading. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Stacy Harvey,
Second.
second by Miss Rachel Kirby. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for the vote.
Sally Brock.
Yes.
Deidre Dunlap.
Aye.
Stacy Harvey.
Aye.
Steve Harvey.
Yes.
Rachel Kirby.
Yes.
Carrie Morton. Yes. Mayor Chastain.
Aye, motion passes. Item 11 is departmental reports. Sam, you and Wayne want to come up?
Our fiscal year 2022-2023 audit is now behind us, and I asked Mr. Wayne Cantrell from Denny Cantrell CPAs to come tonight if you had any questions. I know you haven't been able to look through that audit yet, but I just wanted to introduce him, have him come around for questions, and obviously, if you ever have any questions, where to find him and how to get in touch with him.
Thank you for allowing us to do your audit for several years. We appreciate the business, appreciate working with you. And as Samantha said, I'm glad to entertain questions or anything you have regarding that audit at any point in time during the year. Phone call away. So this time, I know you haven't had as much time. If you have a question, I will be glad to entertain it. If you have a question later, I'll be glad to entertain it.
Any questions for Wayne or Samantha?
What's the definition of net position?
Your accumulated earnings from the beginning of time. In a regular business, you would call it retained earnings or your equity. It doesn't mean it's spendable, doesn't mean it's in cash. And just for an example, if you're looking probably at your statement of net position on page 3, I assume that may be where you're looking there. If you look at your net position, it's broken down this way. You have about for the governmental activities, business type would be water and sewer and the electric department. But for the governmental activities, your general funds, public works, all of that, you have about $13.5 million tied up in capital assets over related debt. What we do there is we take your total assets. If you look up at the capital assets net of depreciation, 21 million up at the top in the asset section. And then we take away the liabilities, primarily notes and bonds payable of nearly $9 million down there in the liabilities. Your net is around $13 million. There's some other few things in there, but that's a primary part of it. So that's really non-spendable. It's tied up in assets and net of debt. For debt service, you carry about $99 in the little debt service fund where you transfer money in, pay the note payments out. It's been there forever and a day. It's just an bill, keeping that open. I think there's maybe a couple of those bonds. That's tied up in there. Highways and streets is your street department, public works. If you'll look, that will tie in directly over on page 7. Page 7 has the fund balances on the governmental basis. And the state street aid is $634,000 of that. That's restricted money only can be used for street repairs and maintenance. Nothing unrelated to streets. That's why it's restricted for that purpose. You have in drug enforcement, $146,000, which means that's can only be used in the drug fund, basically. And then there's $10.9 million of unrestricted funds. Now, that's again a little bit deceptive. Out of that, you have about it's about $10 million in cash and CDs, and that also includes a restricted cash. Part of that is money you set aside for different purposes. I think there's still some, there's some of that ARPA money that's still around. You got it all. You use the revenues and the expenses of police and fire to get the money, which got the money in your pocket and you don't have to do anything else for it. But yet you set some of that stuff aside there for capital projects and things that you want to do at your discretion, not restricted by law, but designated by board. So there's around 10 to $11 million that can be used by the board at discretion. So did that answer your question?
It did.
More than you wanted.
No, that's a good term for it. I mean, that means what it says it means.
It's your equity.
Yeah.
And whatever's built up through the years.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Am I done?
Yeah, I think that,
Everything's looking at me. I'm looking at y'all. I feel like a fun.
Just wanted to let y'all know that we did receive the CDBG grant this year. That'll be a sewer rehabilitation project. It'll be, the grants for 630,000, city, 70,000 city manager. So pretty good again. So we'll be doing part of Lynn Street downhill, back down High and back up Locust.
And then we'll get to pay, right?
Right. So anyway, that's good news. And we do have materials on the yard to do the roof at Bell Street. Part of those materials kind of blew down the backside and damaged some of them. I've already talked to the contractor. So we won't let them put anything on there that they don't need to put it. So thank you.
thank you, sir.
Wanted to give you a quick update on the cooling tower. I'm sure it's gotten quieter.
Oh,
at the,
definitely.
So January 2nd, they tied all that in, completed that. Maffett Loftus, the engineering group that oversaw the project, is going to be coming down and doing a checklist on that to complete that. But it is running. It's amazing to get out of my vehicle and walk through the parking lot, and that thing, the old one, is just humming all the time. So it's kind of neat to go out back and it be quiet. But everything seems to be working pretty smoothly on that. So we're excited about that. This weekend is McMinnville on Ice. It's a final weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And then Joe Harvey has the Ultimate Oldies at the Park Theater. Show starts at 7. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any announcements to come before the board? Mr. Main?
Today is National Law Enforcement Officers Day. So thank you to all of our law enforcement. I don't know if there's some back there. Thank you. If you see one, tell them thank you. Just want to reiterate what you said about Public Works and our first responders, dealing with the wind damage. We had 7 street lights out and weren't able to get to all 7 today. Hopefully we'll get to the 7th one tomorrow morning. So they've been working hard to get those things fixed. 8 a.m. Thursday, meet at Pace Setters to do a walkthrough with the architect, Peter Metz. And that's all I've got.
How will you approach the location and where should we park?
So if you would just go down the bypass like you're going to the mall and at the light, you can just turn left now. It's open.
Oh, it's open?
Yeah. So just go to the light, turn left, and it's your first right. Just, there's a lot of heavy equipment around there still, maybe park away from that so your vehicle doesn't get crushed. So other than that, we should be good.
Mr. Purtle, you have anything?
No.
There's nothing else coming before the board. We'll stand adjourned. Thank you.